Hi everyone. In this series of screencasts, I'm going to show you how to create a 2.5 dimensional parallax sequence effect. We'll be using Blender, which is completely free, and we'll be using Photoshop. So here in front of me is a really beautiful example of the parallax sequence. This was created by Make Productions for the World Wildlife Federation, Foundation. So what you can see is a lot of really nice sort of slow motion effects going on, and they're just haunting. And the amazing thing is that these are all made out of still photographs. There's no video whatsoever, and it creates this really, really interesting illusion. Okay, and I will go ahead and I'll post the link in the description down below. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off in Photoshop and preparing our image. So I've downloaded a single photo from the Creative Commons using Flickr. So I'm going to go into Photoshop and do File, Open, navigate to my desktop and go find my photograph and open it up. So simple photo of a little boy running down a street. He's holding a little car toy, and what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to move our 3D Blender camera around in the scene. We can pan it up and down, move it maybe through the image using depth, which would be really cool. And the parallax effect will make the boy scroll at a different speed than the environment. We can go a little bit more advanced and increase the parallax effect by including the trees in the effect as well, even these stone steps here, which will really help create the illusion if you want to take it a step further. So, all right, let's get started. Over here in your Layers panel on the right-hand side, you'll see that we have our original background and it is locked. You never really want to work on the background because it's the original. So I start off by pressing Command J, and that makes an exact duplicate copy of the background. If you're doing Windows, I am on a Mac here, but if you are doing Windows, you can press Control J, and I believe that does the exact same thing. Okay, so here is my copy now. I'm going to temporarily hide my background layer so that way it's hidden, and I just did that by clicking on the little eye on the left-hand side. And I'm going to rename my layer by double left clicking, and I'll go ahead and I'll call this I'll call it edit. There we go. So now that I have a layer, I want to do a file save as. Right now this is a JPEG image. Your image might be a JPEG, it might be a PNG, it might be something else, but for now we want to do a save as, so that way we can save it into another format and have a safety net. So I'm going to come up here to File, Save As. If your Save As screen looks like this, that's fine. You can click on this little downward arrow and expand it so you can see more options. But you basically want to save it onto your desktop, and you want the format right here to be set to Photoshop. And that way all of your layers, even though I only have one, stay intact. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call this Parallax. I'm going to call this Parallax Project, and it's going to say .psd, and hit Save. Okay, so there it is. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to start isolating and separating and lifting the different elements. So the things that I'm going to lift are going to be the steps, the boy, of course, he's the main subject, and we'll see a couple of these trees here, maybe 3 or 4 of these trees here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zoom in by using my scroll wheel on the boy here. You can also zoom in by holding down the Command key and pressing plus or minus on your keyboard. Okay. You can also use the magnification zoom tool over here as well, but I like the keyboard. So I'm going to zoom in, and then I'm going to hold down the space bar and left click and drag, and that's going to allow me to stay zoomed in, and I can just pan. Alright, so now what we're going to do to finish up this screencast is we're going to do what's called a quick mask, and that's going to allow us to very simply but accurately select our subject. So the first thing you want to do is come over here and you want to select the brush tool. You can also press B on the keyboard. Once you do that, then you want to come up here to the top left corner and click on this little icon here in the top left corner, and that lets you see the brush picker. You can also come out to your canvas here and you can press your right mouse button, and that will give you a floating version of the same thing. So the brushes you're going to want to work with are going to be these first top 6. They're fairly similar. The main thing you want to look at is the 2 types of brushes here. Is we have a hard edge brush, this hard white circle here, and then we have a soft edge brush, which is going to give you a very feathery edge, kind of like a airbrush here. So okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose one of these hard edge brushes. Now, if I start painting on this right now, you'll see that I'm painting with my current color, which happens to be red. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to change my current color to something else, just so you can see. Alright, so there it is there. And again, I'm undoing. Alright, so what we want to do is I want to get back to my default colors, and my default colors are black and white. So one way you can do it is you can press the letter D, D as in default, and it should go back to black and white. If it doesn't for some reason, you can of course manually change to the color black, make sure it's all the way pure black, and tap OK, and make sure that your 2 colors are pure black and white. Alright, so now what we want to do is we want to create something called a quick mask. And the quick mask button is down here in the very bottom of the tools toolbar down here. It's this little rectangle with a little dotted circle. And the keyboard shortcut for it is the letter Q, Q for quick mask. And when you do quick mask, you'll notice that down here the button gets pressed and it's active. Now if I start painting, you'll notice that I'm painting in red and it's kind of see-through. And that's so you can see where you're painting. Now you're not actually painting with the color red. If you look up here in your color picker, you'll see that your color picker is still showing black and white, and I'll explain that in a moment. But basically, here's the idea. Whatever you paint over in red, that's what you're selecting. That's what you're telling Photoshop that you want to work with. Okay? So your goal now is to go over and just paint over everything that you want to work with. So in this case, it's going to be the entire kit. So you just brush over it here. If you want to change your brush size, you can use the bracket keys that are to the right next to the letter P on your keyboard. So you can do left bracket key, and that will make your brush size smaller, so you can do smaller detailed areas like, say, his ear. And you can do right bracket key a couple times, and that will allow you to paint bigger areas. Now you want to be accurate, of course, so if you paint outside like I just did there, you could undo, but I would say don't do that. So here's how the colors work. If you are currently painting with the color black, you're adding to the mask. So I'm painting with the color black. So you can see black added to the selection. If I flip to white and I change the color to white, now if I paint, you can see that I'm taking away from the mask. So the color white erases from the mask and the color black adds back. Now here's a really cool way of doing this. So black adds. Now if you press the letter X on your keyboard, X, if you look up here in my color picker, X will flip the 2 colors. So really just stick with the color black and white, and if you need to paint, you're going to paint in black. If you need to erase, press X, make sure you're painting in white, and you can now erase. Okay, so you really don't need undos at all. As a matter of fact, doing undos is probably just going to slow you down. It's just an extra step. So The key to painting accurately here is just either painting slower or zooming in, panning by pressing the space bar and holding down, and just getting in nice and close and making sure that you're being quite accurate. Again, you can press the letter X, you can change and you can erase, so that way you can trim and make it nice and clean. Use those bracket keys to go in and just be quite accurate, and there you go. So basically what you want to do is you want to stay in quick mask mode, and again, depending on the kind of person you are, a lot of people like to go zoomed in and just go around the perimeter, so right around the edges. Again, if you make a mistake, if you go outside, you can undo, but it's much easier to just press X and change your color to white. So what a lot of people like to do is they like to go around the border with a very small, accurate brush. And then once they've got a good perimeter and they feel pretty confident about that, then they can change their brush size. And then they can go ahead and go in there and just do this very, very, very quickly. So let's say, for instance, I've finished going around the perimeter of the kid. Then I can just go in with a larger brush here and I can just kind of go through and do it very quick like. You could even try the paint bucket tool if you're familiar with that, and you can go in and you could do that. Okay, so I don't want to make the video much longer, but basically this is the process here. Every once in a while you'll want to come up here and do File, Save, and that will then save your quick mask selection, so that way you can get back to it in time. When saving, it does save your mask. So if I go ahead and do my File Save, and then I close out of Photoshop, and then I come back to it and I open it back up again, you'll see that the quick mask does return. If you press the letter Q, you exit quick mask mode, and you'll now see a live selection showing you how accurate your quick mask was. If you do this accidentally, or you need to go back into quick mask mode to make changes, just press Q again and you're back in quick mask mode. Okay? So that's pretty much it for this tutorial. So work with the brush tool and use quick mask mode so you can make accurate selections. And in the next screencast tutorial, I will show you when you're finished making your quick mask mode, where you can go from there. And then we'll move on by quick masking the stairs, finishing the boy here, and then doing all of the trees. So I'll see you in the next screencast tutorial. Thanks.